Hey everyone, it's Elodie from the marketing team of MediaDev, and I am with my colleague Mimi. How are you, Mimi?
Hi, Elodie. Hi, everyone. I'm good. It was just a weekend, and so it was a great weekend. How about you? I hope you had a great weekend.
Yeah. Still the end of the quarantine, but yeah, it was good. So yeah, we are here today to talk about your job as a social seller at MediaDev. So maybe you could start by introducing us your job and daily mission.
Sure, yeah. So I work. Everyone. My name is Mimi, and I work as a lead generation specialist or a social seller for MediaDev. And so my daily mission is to identify OEM opportunities for one of the biggest clients of MediaDev. So I set up appointments and meetings for my clients.
Okay,
Yep.
good. And what do you love the most about being a social seller?
Oh, actually, what I love the most about being a social seller is that I get to have the time in the world to answer questions that I haven't encountered in the past. Like, if I compared it to my experience in telemarketing, because I'm not a technical person, and the campaign that I'm doing now is obviously for IT clients, and I get to have these questions in the past over the phone that I'm not really sure if I've answered it correctly, but it's different here in
Yeah,
social
you do.
selling because right, because it's different in social selling because if I don't know the answer at the moment, then I get to research it, and most importantly, I find myself learning new things from what I've
Yeah,
researched. So I
yeah.
also get
Nowadays
to
is the
be
same.
creative. Right. And I also get to be creative in my approaches. If one strategy doesn't work, then I'll try another. If a certain style of messaging doesn't catch the prospect's attention, so I
Yeah,
try another. Like every month, I have, I try to, as much as possible, I try to um, discipline myself to try different approaches every month. So yeah, it's really different from telemarketing.
yeah. Okay, yeah. Perfect. So it comes to another question I have in mind. Maybe you could like give us some examples of strategies that you are using to generate leads.
Yeah, sure. I would love to share this with everyone. I also do this with my colleague here in Media Dev. So my strategy is just really very simple, just being very spontaneous, and as much as possible, I try to find a common interest that I leverage to start the conversation with the prospects, like their job experiences, the articles that they may have recently shared, their
Mhm.
interests in technology like data and analytics, because that's what's important for my client right now. So, data and analytics. So, I make sure that the prospects that I'm reaching out to are kind of like within that interest of technology as well. So, for example, in my campaign that I'm working with right now, which is one of the world's leading provider of data analytics and business intelligence platform. So, because of this COVID thingy, they've worked with an organization in the UK, and they have developed a mobile app to report, track, and identify patients that have tested positive for COVID. So, um, because of that, I kind of thought of reaching out to clients that are within the healthcare industry to make the conversation relatable to what we are experiencing in our environment right now. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's super cool. Yeah. And so, what kind of approaches are the most efficient for you to use on social media from your experience?
I think that in both social media and in telemarketing, the most effective approach is just to be really spontaneous. And I think also most of the time, for me, it depends on the job level of the person that you're approaching. So in my case, most of the time, I approach decision makers, prospects that are within the VP, directors, senior directors, or C levels. So they're from, of course, from product development. So whenever I do, I make sure that their approach is going to be worth their time reading and responding. So in order for me to do that, I usually check their website, study their products, study their business initiatives. And so I ask questions that are really relevant to their current responsibilities and interests. So most of the time, I don't just add or send connections or reach
Okay.
out and ask the person to, yeah, let's connect, and it's out of nothing. I usually really read everything on their job description, on their about and skills and responsibilities. I make sure to read that. So, I kind of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
know what they're doing and what their interest is. So I can kind of like, as of what I mentioned earlier, I kind of like use it as my leverage to start the conversation.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's good. That's once you really know the prospect and his job position that you can be aware of what's saying and not
Yes,
saying. Okay,
exactly.
yeah.
Just to really kind of really getting yourself now, just to, and not make the prospect not think like you're just sending them a message out of nowhere, like,
Mm, yeah, yeah, sure. I see.
Mhm.
Okay. So what are for you the biggest challenges that you face as a social seller?
Oh, you know what? It's kind of difficult being a social seller, and the biggest challenge that I've faced for the past maybe about 2 years, when I started doing as a social seller, was like really um, keeping my patience in what I do. Being
Mhm.
a social seller takes a lot of patience. Just imagine sending messages like on a daily basis. I send an average of about 20 to 30 emails. Well,
Yeah, it's a lot.
sometimes 50 when I'm that desperate to have a conversation with someone. Yeah, so out of 50, you are lucky to get maybe 5 or 10 responses. So you kind of like, it really kind of sometimes get into your head mentally, and try to sometimes ask yourself what you're doing, if you're doing it right, if maybe you're doing is
Yeah,
what you're doing is wrong. So you kind of like question your own skills and abilities. So yeah, I think that's your biggest
yeah,
challenge,
I
because
understood.
you don't have someone to speak to. So that's the biggest difference when you're doing telemarketing and the social selling as well, because mentally sometimes it has an effect on you. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah, you have to learn to be patient, I guess.
exactly. Yeah, and especially if,
So,
if you have like a quota as a salesperson, you have a monthly quota to achieve. And so like if you're still in a stage where you don't have anyone replying to your messages, you kind of like show, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I need to do
yeah,
something else. I need to find another strategy, things like that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you are always proactive, so that's a good point. So,
Yeah.
also, what are for you the main skills? We are just talking about skills like patience that someone needs to become an efficient social seller.
Yep. So aside from being patient, the person needs to be curious at all times, curious with what's happening in the world, like checking the news, checking what's in their prospects or the clients' websites. Always be curious and always just try to learn new stuff about your campaign. In my case, with my campaign now, it's about data analytics and AI. So I try
Mhm.
to, as much as possible, read on a daily basis. I allot about 30 minutes of my time every day to really read articles about data analytics and AI. So yeah, being a social seller, you need to be patient and you need to be curious, and yeah, never stop driving
Yeah,
to learn something new.